Today, we are starting a series of videos that will cover the rich and fascinating history of Spain. In this first video, we embark on a journey to the dawn of history, exploring the origin of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula. Are you ready to discover their roots and how they came to these lands? Join us on this exciting journey through time. Historical context is crucial to understanding the origin of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula. We are talking about a very ancient period, when civilizations as we know them today had not yet formed. During this time, human groups were nomadic, constantly seeking new territories for hunting and gathering food. The first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula arrived during prehistory, approximately 1.2 million years ago, a period spanning millions of years preceding the invention of writing. During this time, the world was constantly changing. Continents were taking their current shape, and the climate fluctuated, creating challenges for human survival. These early inhabitants had to adapt to these changes and learn to survive in different environments. Their arrival in the Iberian Peninsula marks the beginning of a long history of adaptation and survival, which eventually led to the diverse cultures and civilizations we know today in the region. The geographic origin of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula is a topic of great debate among historians and archaeologists. According to the most accepted theories, these early inhabitants could have come from different areas of Europe and Africa. Some studies suggest that the first inhabitants may have come from Eastern Europe, traversing the continent over thousands of years. Other studies point to an origin in North Africa, crossing the Strait of Gibraltar to reach the peninsula. These theories are based on archaeological evidence, such as ancient tools and remains of settlements, as well as genetic studies of present-day populations. However, there is still much we do not know about these first inhabitants and their geographic origin. It is important to remember that these are just theories. As scientists continue to research and discover new evidence, our understanding of the origin of these first inhabitants may change. The journey of the first inhabitants to the Iberian Peninsula is a fascinating tale of resilience and adaptation. According to the most accepted theories, these human groups undertook long journeys from their places of origin, either from different areas of Europe or from North Africa. These journeys were not easy. The first inhabitants had to face adverse weather conditions, difficult terrain, and the need to find food and shelter along the way. Despite these challenges, they managed to reach the Iberian Peninsula. Some studies suggest that these first inhabitants may have followed the coasts, using the sea as a guide and resource. Others believe they may have crossed mountains and valleys, following migratory routes of animals or seeking natural passages. These theories are based on archaeological and genetic evidence, but much remains to be discovered about these first journeys to the Iberian Peninsula. Archaeological evidence plays a crucial role in our understanding of the origin of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula. This evidence includes remains of tools, bones, cave paintings, and remnants of ancient settlements. Stone and bone tools give us an idea of the technical skills and way of life of these early inhabitants. Cave paintings, on the other hand, offer us a glimpse into their spiritual world and their interpretation of the natural world. Remains of ancient settlements, such as homes or burial sites, give us an idea of how these early inhabitants lived, how they organized their communities, and how they treated their dead. These archaeological evidence, along with genetic and linguistic studies, are crucial for reconstructing the history of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula. However, interpreting this evidence remains a challenge and an active field of study. The origin of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula is a topic that has generated various controversial theories. Some of these theories challenge conventional ideas about human migration and cultural diffusion. For example, there are theories suggesting that these first inhabitants did not come from Europe or Africa, but developed independently in the Iberian Peninsula. These theories are based on differences in tools and cultural practices not found in other regions. Other controversial theories suggest that these first inhabitants may have arrived in the Iberian Peninsula much earlier than currently believed, based on archaeological evidence that is still subject to debate. These controversial theories remind us that the history of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula is far from definitive, and that there is still much to be discovered. The impact of these first inhabitants on future Iberian culture is a fascinating topic. Although we are focusing on their origin and arrival in the peninsula, it is important to mention that their presence laid the groundwork for the development of Iberian culture. These first inhabitants brought their own traditions, knowledge, and skills. They introduced new techniques of hunting, gathering, and fishing, as well as new ways of making tools and artifacts. Their arrival marked the beginning of human history in the Iberian Peninsula and played a crucial role in shaping the cultural identity of the region. Although it is difficult to determine the exact extent of their impact, it is clear that these first inhabitants were fundamental to the history of the Iberian Peninsula. Despite advances in research, many questions remain unanswered about the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula. What were their lives like exactly? How were they socially organized? How did they interact with their environment? And how did they modify it to meet their needs? Furthermore, although current theories point to an origin in Europe or Africa, a definitive consensus has not yet been reached. Could there have been other groups of first inhabitants that we have not yet discovered? Could they have come from other regions of the world? These unanswered questions remind us that the history of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula is far from complete. Each new evidence discovered may change our understanding of their origin and life. In the next segment, we will give a sneak peek of the next video, which will focus on the Iberians. Don't miss it. In conclusion, we have explored the fascinating origin of the first inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula. Although many questions remain unanswered, each new evidence brings us one step closer to understanding our history. In the next video, we will delve into the world of the Iberians, a culture that left an indelible mark on the peninsula. Are you ready to continue this journey through time? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments. See you in the next video about the Iberians. Thank you for joining us on this journey to the dawn of history.